week 2 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few running backs I would bench this week. The first guy, Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. So Ezekiel Elliott in week 1, his yards per carry were pretty good. 10 carries for 52 yards and 1 catch for -3 yards. But right now, with the offensive line hurt, with Tyron Smith and Montgomery out in this ball game, and Dak Prescott obviously out with a broken thumb for multiple weeks here, I don't see Ezekiel Elliott doing much. I think this Bengal team, they're going to load the box and then make Cooper Rush try to beat them. And we saw them hold Najee Harris down as well in that ball game. So right here with a tough matchup versus a gun run defense in the Cincinnati Bengals and a banged-up offensive line, and without his quarterback, Ezekiel Elliott, it's going to be a tough ball game. Yeah, he's going to get a lot of work, but I could only see him rushing for maybe 60, 70 yards and maybe getting a couple catches in this one. So with the tough matchup and with all the factors against him, I can't trust Ezekiel Elliott. And I'm not saying benching him if you don't have options, but if you got a decent number 2 option this week here, like a Miles Sanders, I would play over an Elliott, a Josh Jacobs, guys like that, then I would bench him this week here. So he's the first running back I would bench. The second guy is David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. So there's a few factors in this one why I would bench David Montgomery. But like I mentioned with Elliott, it's got to be decent options and starting options, not just the guy you're going to toss out there and hope he has a good ball game who's a backup or whatever. So week 1, not a good ball game for David Montgomery. 17 carries, 26 rush yards, 3 catches, 24 yards. And the other thing is Khalil Herbert ate into the workload with 10-plus touches and also got a couple goal line looks as well was Herbert. I know that week 1 ball game, it was a messy ball game, a lot of rain. It was like a pool out there in Soldier Field. And here in week 2, it's a tough matchup at the Green Bay Packers. We didn't see Dalvin Cook have the greatest of games, and we know Dalvin Cook's a way more talented running back than David Montgomery. So right now, with Herbert eating in the workload in week 1, and with a tough matchup versus the Green Bay Packers, if you have a decent number 2 option at your running back position, I would bench David Montgomery this week because I don't see him doing much, only scoring maybe 7 to 12 fantasy point range with the factors against him. Next running back's Damien Harris, the New England Patriots. Damien Harris, he didn't have a good ball game in week 1, and him and Stevenson, for the most part, they split carries, and yards per carry was good for Harris. 9 carries, 48 rush yards with 2 catches for 10 receiving yards. But if he's only going to get 10, 12 carries, it's not a guy I could count on for my fantasy team. And this Pittsburgh defense, they look great in week 1. And now with Mac Jones out, in this one, if Brian Hoyer is going to start this ball game, or even if it's going to be Mac Jones, I think they're going to stack the box and make Jones or Hoyer try to beat this defense here as Pittsburgh. And that's what they do so well. Last week, I know Joe Mixon had a good ball game in terms of fantasy football, but he did rush the ball 27 times, only getting 72 yards on the 27 carries. So right here, they're going to try to make this Patriot offense one-dimensional, and it's going to be tough sledding, I think, for this running game. Even Stevenson or Harris, either guys, I don't like the matchup here. Unless you're in a pinch at a flex position or number 2 running back with injuries, or you just didn't draft much depth, I can't trust Harris this week, and I got him as a running back. I'm benching. The next guy is Damien Pierce of the Houston Texans. So Damien Pierce, a lot of hype coming out of the preseason, and rightfully so. He had some big ball games, and they even cut Marlon Mack, but he signed yesterday with the San Francisco 49ers. So Pierce in week 1, a lot of people started him, and he was a total bust. 11 carries, 33 rush yards with 1 catch for 6 receiving yards. And he's got a tough matchup here in week 2 at the Denver Broncos. And also Rex Burkhead had a good workload in week 1 where he saw 71% of the snaps, which I don't think that's going to be that much again here in week 2. But Rex Burkhead had 14 carries, 40 yards, and 5 catches, 30 yards. Obviously, we know Burkhead, he's dialed into that passing downs role. And this could be a ball game, obviously, though, where the Texans are down early and often at Denver, where they're going to have to throw a lot, and Pierce might not see the field. So right here with the matchup and Rex Burkhead eating a lot of the work in week 1, even though I think it evens out at 50-50 this week and as the season goes on here. I don't think Damien Pierce has a good fantasy day. And if he's not going to catch passes out of the backfield and limited to just carrying the football, I don't think he's a guy I could trust as a number 2 running back or even a flex option this week. And he's a running back I would bench with the matchup and obviously with Burkhead over there in the backfield. And the final running back I would bench this week, Cordarrelle Patterson of the Atlanta Falcons. So Patterson had a great week 1 where he was the bell cow, especially after Damian Williams went out in that ball game with a rib injury. 22 carries, 120 rush yards, and a touchdown versus the Saints. And surprisingly, only 3 catches for 16 yards here for Cordarrelle Patterson. But right now, with a tough matchup at the Rams and a Ram team that I think is going to make this Atlanta Falcon team one-dimensional early in this ball game, with the defense making stops and with their offense getting off to a 7 to 10 point lead, I believe, early in this one. Cordarrelle Patterson's going to have tough sledding, and not really a guy that this Falcon team is going to want carrying the football 18 to 25 times in this one. So it was a great week 1, no doubt about it, here for Patterson with 22 fantasy points in PPR leagues. But right here in week 2, it's a tough matchup at the Rams. And if Damien Williams is back in the lineup here, I think he's going to get at least anywhere from 5 to 10 touches in that one and eat a little bit of Patterson's workload. So that's a few running backs I would bench here for week 2 of the fantasy football season.